Evening and welcome to Saturday's 6-1 News and Sport. The headlines. As Storm Desmond crosses the country, bad weather causes flooding, knocks out power and dozens of flights are cancelled.
They sent us to the terminal and we stayed here for like 12 hours now.
Taoiseach Joan Burton accuses Fine Gael of trying to shrink spending on public services. Banking inquiry meeting may continue into tomorrow as members try to finalise report.
We do need to complete our work either tonight or certainly in the early part of tomorrow in order to stick to the deadline.
And in sports headlines, Leicester City go top of the Premier League as Manchester City lose again. And a return to form for Sire de Grugy in the Tingle Creek Chase at Sandown.
A status red weather alert remains in place in Connacht, Donegal and parts of Munster tonight as Storm Desmond makes its way across the country. Nearly 2,000 ESB customers are still without power and flights in and out of Dublin and Cork have been disrupted. More than 100 Ryanair flights have been cancelled. Motorists have been advised to drive with care.
The fourth Atlantic storm in recent weeks, Storm Desmond has brought widespread flooding to many parts of the southwest and northwest. In Donegal, drivers were forced to turn back where roads became impassable, with floodwaters or rivers bursting their banks and flowing freely across road surfaces. Among the towns and villages affected were Ballybofey and Castlefin, where houses and properties were flooded. In County Kerry, Kenmare has been badly affected, and residents were out early hoping to hold back the floodwaters.
It's unfortunate we're only 3 weeks to Christmas that this has happened. Things are bad enough, business locally, but look, there's been a great community spirit. There's been 60 or 70 of us sandbagging and bringing sandbags to the local shops that need us most.
The main Kerry-Cork road was closed at Glenflesk, and Gardaí, the Army and Mountain Rescue personnel are assisting people from their homes. Dublin was also hit with parked cars damaged in Nutgrove, where a tree fell overnight. Ferry crossings in the Irish Sea have been cancelled, and dozens of flights to and from Dublin Airport were also cancelled, diverted or delayed. Ryanair flights were worst affected.
We were just waiting for, I think, 3 hours or 4 hours, and nobody told us. And then I just looked it up online, and online it said that the flight is cancelled.
When we were in the plane and they told you to go down, so
something like 4 hours.
Yeah.
And then they told us that it wasn't possible to actually do it, so they sent us to the terminal and we stayed here for like 12 hours now.
Met Éireann's status red rain warning remains in place for Connacht, Clare, Kerry and Donegal until 3 a.m. and more heavy rain is forecast. Orange and yellow wind and rain warnings are in place for most of the rest of the country. More than 3,100 homes are currently without electricity due to the storm, and ESB crews are working to restore supply in many areas. Joe McGrady, RTE News.
In the west, heavy rainfall and gale force winds are causing localised flooding in many areas. Our reporter Teresa Mannion has this report from Galway.
Salt Hill at noon today, and the might of Storm Desmond continued to sweep across the Atlantic, battering the prom and sending waves cascading over the rocks. Winds of up to 120 kilometres an hour made Galway's favourite place to stroll a no-go area. And all day long, the rain kept pouring, averaging up to 70 millilitres in many areas. Further along the west coast to Connemara, localised flooding made for treacherous road conditions. The incessant rainfall led to streams and small rivers bursting their banks, with one local city councillor echoing the problems of many homeowners affected by the storm.
Well, it's just a stream that's going through the woods there and it's overflowing. First time I've ever seen that overflowing. But of course, the ground was saturated with all the weather all the rain that's fallen for the last months or so. So I'm not surprised really. And of course, we had over an inch of rain last night, and that's actually flooded everywhere as well.
It was a similar story in Afurbacha and on Spidale, with waves crashing out onto the road and hammering the prom. In Clare, Galway, a lot of farmland was flooded, with Galway County Council busy pumping water off the road. The council is urging people to be aware of roadworks and expect delays if they have to make necessary journeys.
Now Teresa joins us live from Galway, while Joe McGreely is also at Dublin Airport. Teresa, if I could start with you, it looks absolutely awful where you are.
Yes, Una, I'm coming to you from a very wet, very windy Salt Hill prom. The gales are still blowing in off the Atlantic Ocean here, but really this is all about the rain. Storm Desmond is an exceptional rainstorm. The rainfall is averaging 70 millimetres in many areas and peaking at over 100 in others. Weather experts say that in the last 36 hours, many areas have experienced the equivalent of a month's supply of rain, which really puts things into perspective. A lot of farmland flooded across the county, particularly in East Galway, and farmers will be assessing the impact of Storm Desmond in the coming days.
And Teresa, what's happening in Crossmolina? We're hearing that it's pretty much cut off, is that right?
That's right, Una. I understand as we came on air this evening that the N59 linking Ballina to Belmullet is completely impassable, causing serious flooding conditions for the town of Crossmolina. So all of the advice is stay away from that stretch of motorway. It's treacherous, and we will be following developments there. I suppose, Una, Crossmolina crystallises just how treacherous the weather conditions are here in the west and the northwest. Cannot repeat the advice often enough from the Gardaí. Don't make unnecessary journeys, don't take risks on treacherous roads, and don't swim in the sea. Incredibly, people have been spotted in the water here in Blackrock and Salt Hill both today and yesterday. Galway City Council say their actions are idiotic. Not only are they putting their lives in danger, but it is unacceptable and unforgivable to put the lives of people in the rescue services at danger as well.
OK, Teresa, we'll leave it there and let you go. Thank you. Joe McGreely in Dublin Airport, what's the latest there?
Well, Una, I can tell you that here in Terminal 1 and Terminal 2 there are literally hundreds and hundreds of passengers milling around because, of course, so many flights have been cancelled from this airport today. Aer Lingus say that in all they cancelled 39 of their regional flights today, not just from this airport but also from Cork Airport and from airports in the UK. And in terms of Ryanair, incredibly, 140 flights to and from Dublin Airport were cancelled today. So all of those passengers that were due to leave here are marooned here in the airport due to Storm Desmond. Now, many of them are hoping that they may be able to get out later on, and they're hanging on in the airport. Others are trying to book with other airlines because the airport isn't actually closed. Some of the airlines with bigger aircraft are still flying, and others again are being moved to local hotels and been given accommodation for the night. But as of yet, they don't know when they will be able to complete their travel plans. And the advice to any intending passengers is to very definitely check with the airlines before they start coming to the airport.
Joe McGreely, thank you. Meanwhile, Storm Desmond is also being felt in Britain. Severe flood warnings have been issued for parts of northern England and Scotland. Homes have been flooded and roads shut after rivers burst their banks. A number of sporting events have also been cancelled. The Taoiseach and Labour Party leader has said she wants the current government returned, but has accused Fine Gael of wanting to spend less on public services than her party. Joan Burton said each party will fight its corner during the election in what she said would be a battle of ideas. The Sinn Féin president described the Taoiseach's comments as laughable.
Labour Party members gathered at Liberty Hall today to remember one of their founders, James Connolly. But it was the future and that looming election that was exercising most in this room. The big message was clear. Labour say Fine Gael wants to shrink the state, or to put it another way, spend less on public services.
Stand to right ideas right across the world, going back to the days of the neoliberal movement in the States, and the Chicago School have suggested that the private sector can do everything. Now, I just don't believe that the private sector can do everything.
So strong is this belief within Labour that the party wants to spend 70% of available exchequer funding on public services. This government has had a 50-50 split between tax cuts and public spending increases, changing this a key part of what Labour says will be a battle of ideas between the coalition partners during the election. Despite that strong language from the Taoiseach, as the 2016 general election draws ever closer, one opposition party had this damning assessment of the Labour Party's relationship with Fine Gael. Meeting some of his party's election candidates today, the Sinn Féin president described Labour as Fine Gael light. He said people faced a clear choice next spring.
The real battle is between the challenge facing people, that they use this election to elect a progressive government, which will be minus Fine Gael, which will be minus Fianna Fáil and the other Conservative parties, and which will contain Sinn Féin.
And the choices and promises that parties will offer voters are becoming a little clearer today, as that election battle draws nearer and nearer. Micheál Lahan, RT News, Dublin.
The banking inquiry is continuing to meet this evening to finalise its draft report amid speculation it could carry through into tomorrow. The committee has agreed 9 out of 11 chapters, reaching agreement this afternoon on the contentious section on the role of government and the Oireachtas during the crisis.
Another marathon session of the banking inquiry today, but progress is being made. So far, they have worked through the section on the roles played by state institutions, including the central bank and the financial regulator. And they have agreed the chapter on the role of the Fianna Fáil-led government and the opposition during the crisis, with the chairman emphasising agreement has been reached by consensus.
There was always going to be challenges, and it is a committee that's made up of at a cross-party level, and members of the committee are members of no political party. We've dealt with those challenges by operating on a basis of consensus.
Discussions are continuing on chapters on burden sharing and the Troika programme. But what remains are difficult sections drafting the findings and recommendations, along with the crucial executive summary. An earlier version was dismissed by some as too political. While tomorrow has been set aside for formatting the report, some members conceded they may need to meet again.
We do need to complete our work either tonight or certainly in the early part of tomorrow in order to stick to the deadline, and there is no buffer or wriggle room there now.
I don't know that we'll get to the executive summary today. We probably will have to sit tomorrow to conclude the executive summary.
But while progress has been made in agreeing the contents of the draft, the 11 members have not signed off on anything, with a strong suggestion that Socialist Party TD Joe Higgins will not put his name to the report. A majority is needed to get the draft over the line before it goes out for a legal review and third-party consultation. Sandra Hurley, RTE News.
A draft agreement has been reached at the climate change talks in Paris. Delegates were addressed today by a host of celebrities and political leaders.
Greetings from the International Space Station.
Astronauts looking down on the planet today sent a message of support to those trying to save it. Negotiators in Paris were encouraged to agree a climate change deal.
Your actions during this important meeting will send a message to the world on how we regard the future of our home planet.
The words of encouragement didn't just come from the stars above the Earth. Some of the biggest stars on the planet also addressed delegates today.
Now that we live in a time where there are no choices, we have clarity. And the days of dreams have given way to the days of doing.
I know that we can build a smart energy future. We can break the pollution's death grip on our Earth. We can win this battle. And we will win this battle.
There were also speeches from political leaders and environmental campaigners.
We are seeing the melting of the ice and the rising of the seas, threatening the lives and livelihoods of our brothers and sisters in the vulnerable states, including the island nations, deltas in countries like Bangladesh, islands in the Bay of Bengal, and cities around the world.
From our vantage point, 250 miles above the Earth, we can see how precious the Earth really is.
Today, a draft agreement was reached that sets out a number of options about how to protect the planet. But now comes the hard part. Governments will have to agree to the deal over the coming days before the talks conclude. On Friday, Brian O'Donovan, RTE News.
And there we take a break. Coming up, Dave has all the sports news.
Una, thank you. Manchester City's Premier League title challenge was blown a little off course today at Stoke. We'll have the story of City's fourth league defeat of the season. And can Chelsea make up lost ground at home to Bournemouth? Plus news of a trophy success for the Ireland ladies cricket team.
Welcome back. Groups working with victims of domestic violence have welcomed Pauline Tully's decision to speak out about her ordeal at the hands of her husband, the convicted Garda killer Pierce McCauley. She told her story to RTE Radio's Marion Finucane show, days after McCauley was given a 12-year prison sentence with 4 suspended for assault.
It's been a roller coaster week for Pauline Tully. First the sentencing of her estranged husband, then sharing the story of what happened last Christmas Eve when Pierce McCauley came to her home and told her children to say goodbye to their mother.
I didn't know where it was going to end. I actually thought it was the end for me, that I wasn't going to survive this time. But I thought if I can stop him using the knife, maybe I have some chance. And he stabbed me here in the chest, up the upper chest area. And I remember him just sticking the knife into me. It was a steak knife, like a dinner steak knife.
Callers and tweets to the radio show questioned why Tully had married a man convicted of killing Garda detective Jerry McCabe.
Just because they're involved in a war situation doesn't mean that they're on a personal level violent. And I've known many people who are not anyway violent to their spouses.
They've killed people.
And it obviously has an effect, but it doesn't mean that they come back and mistreat their families.
But groups working to combat domestic violence said victims should not be blamed.
It's always the focus is nearly always on the victim and blaming the victim as somehow she should have known all of this ages ago, because looking back it's pretty obvious to all of us, but at the time going through it can be a very different situation.
Women's Aid said sentences are generally too light, which dissuades women from coming forward. 76% tell no one about what is still very much a silent crime. Carol Coleman, RTE News.
Now here's Dave with the sports news.
Thanks again. Joe Hart has described Manchester City's latest Premier League defeat as unacceptable. Hart was beaten twice as Stoke City won 2-0 in difficult conditions at the Britannia Stadium.
2 cracking goals that could easily have been 3 or 4, such was Stoke's dominance. Wednesday's 6-1 hammering by Liverpool in the League Cup was still fresh in Southampton.
Now Chelsea are looking to continue their recent revival tonight at home to Bournemouth. Jose Mourinho has again named Diego Costa on the bench. Thibaut Courtois returned to the starting 11 after an injury layoff, and he has been kept busy, but it's still scoreless at the half-time break. Olivier Giroud scored for both sides as Arsenal beat Sunderland 3-1 to go second. Manchester United were booed off after a scoreless draw with West Ham at Old Trafford. Leicester City won 3-0 at Swansea City to go back on top. Jamie Vardy's goal-scoring run has ended. Riyad Mahrez with a hat-trick. Watford beat Norwich City 2-0 and James McLean scored the West Brom equaliser in a 1-1 draw with Tottenham. Leinster's Pro 12 game away to Glasgow Warriors was among the fixtures affected by the stormy weather conditions. Match referee Nigel Owens tweeted photographs of the unplayable pitch at Scottstown. Today's race meeting at Navan and the interprovincial hurling and football games were also postponed. But the card at Sandown today did survive. The big one was the Tingle Creek Chase. Sar de Grugy returned to form in dramatic style to win the race for a second time.
Nina Carberry was out early to inspect the conditions on her first ever ride at Sandown, while punters did what they could to stay warm in the wintry weather. Vibrato Valta was sent off the favourite in the Tingle Creek Chase. But coming to the last, it was a straight shootout between previous winner Sire de Grugy and Irish horse Special Tiara.
Then Vibrato Valta and Summersby. Here now is the final fence.
Stewart's inquiry was called following the collision at the last fence, but the results stood, bringing up a treble for his trainer.
Gone hard. They've gone hard for a long way, you know, and I thought it's a long way out up that hill to commit, but he knows him better than me, so hopefully he's done the right thing.
At Aintree, meanwhile, Willie Mullins' Don Poley showed off Cheltenham Gold Cup credentials with a 4-length win in the Betfred Chase, despite a slipped saddle under jockey Brian Cooper.
And it's Don Poley to make it 4 wins out of 5 starts over fences. Don Poley beats off the national winner.
He showed guts. He's never going to be impressive in what he does anyway, you know, so I wouldn't read too much into it, but he got the job done now and he'll have to step up.
While 20-1 shot Highland Lodge took the honours in the Beecher Handicap Chase. Paul O'Flynn, RTE News.
Shane Lowry carded a 2 under par 70 today at the Nedbank Challenge. He is now 1 under overall. Australian Mark Leishman will take a 1-stroke lead into the final round. A 66 today has left him 14 under par, 1 clear of Henrik Stenson. The Ireland ladies cricket team have won the T20 World Cup qualifying tournament. Qualification for next year's finals was already assured before today's game against Bangladesh. Ireland won by a 2-wicket margin to also win the qualifying tournament itself. And that's your sport for now. Nuna.
Thanks, Dave. And the main news again. As Storm Desmond sweeps high winds and heavy rain across the country, there's widespread flooding, power outages and major disruption to flights. A status red weather alert remains in place in parts of the west and northwest. Motorists are being advised to drive with caution. And you can keep up to date with developments on the RTE News Now channel and the News Now app. And that's all the news and sport so far. A very good evening.
Good evening. Well, the severe weather is going to continue in places until midnight, though improving a lot during the night, and then some fine weather in store tomorrow. Now, all this wet and windy weather has been pumping right in across Ireland from the Atlantic, and some more heavy rain yet to come through this evening, especially in western and northern areas. But it is going to clear overnight, and certainly something of a respite tomorrow. But more wet and windy weather will be pushing in across Ireland during Monday, and overall very unsettled weather in store for next week, with perhaps some further flooding events. But let's look to this evening, and not too bad in eastern and southern areas, but some more heavy rain forecast for the southwest, west and northwest, perhaps another 20 millimetres, but clearing away during the night, and some fine weather around tomorrow. But make the best of it, as another band of rain will push up tomorrow evening and tomorrow night and during Monday. And as I said, it looks like pretty unsettled weather generally for next week. But back to this evening, and here's the latest radar. So far now, we've had in excess of 85 millimetres in parts of the west, and there could be another 20 millimetres through this evening and early tonight. So the southwest, west and northwest likely to get some the flooding events likely to increase. And still those very strong winds, in fact widespread gales gusting up to storm force, but then a dramatic improvement overnight as the cold front moves down. In fact, it's going to turn quite cold overnight, and we could even get a touch of ground frost. So cool start to tomorrow, but much improved weather as that rain clears away overnight. Some fine weather in store tomorrow with light winds, but some severe conditions continuing over the next couple of hours. And I'll have an update for you after the main news at about 20 to 10. Bye for now and take care.